Does someone else want to open the podcast?
It's your podcast, son.
Yeah, but we're a real
So are you ready? With 2 Ds?
Gang.
Puff and Pass! Welcome everybody to our second installment of Puff and Pass, local podcast by your local Adelaideans.
What's up, everybody?
What's up? I'd like everyone to introduce themselves. First of all, welcome. I'm Skeptic the Rapper. Ty, if it makes it easier. The Skeptic the Rapper has a bit more of a ring to it.
What's up, everyone? It's Miriam or Red, whatever you prefer, whatever's easier.
Hi, it's Taylor.
Hi, I'm Bella.
I'm just going to walk us through what we're doing in the podcast today and what it's going to look like. I'm going to be talking about how I got here, how we all got here to this table, what this podcast means to us, and what we actually hope everyone's going to get out of it, what we hope we're going to get out of it, and what we hope that you guys as listeners and watchers are going to get out of it as well. I'm going to be mentioning some of the guests that we're going to look into having on the show and maybe some of the topics that we're going to cover. And at the end of the day, to wrap it up, I've got some useful websites and some resources that I think are really good and really useful that I could have dealt with back in the day. So I'm going to make those available. I'll have the links dropped on this and I will mention everything and get into it. But other than that, we're going to pretty well start off the day. So I'm just going to straight up shoot it. Why are you here, man?
I'm here because I do drugs and I would like to educate the youth of Adelaide or the youth anywhere who's listening how to do it properly and safely and maybe try to find an outlet to even eventually get off of it.
Good stuff, man.
Yeah. So
Awesome.
just to help the youth in a way that I wish people would help me when I was younger.
Sweet, man. Just give them what you need.
Exactly that.
No, I like that.
Yeah, totally agreed. Same. As someone that has used substances in the past and experienced all of that, really just here to help educate all the youth that are looking for guidance and that are actually wanting to understand why they might be feeling the way that they are and know
Awesome.
that they are supported through everything.
Awesome. Thanks for that, Taylor.
I'm here pretty much just to be part of the cause and help
Awesome.
out, and everyone else has such great points, so really just the same as everyone else.
Awesome. Thanks for that. I really appreciate having you guys here today. I'm here for a few different reasons. One of them being what I think we're all here for. We've all been a part of it. There was a lot of times in my past where I've really needed just someone else to reach out. You know, if I just had one more resource or one more person or one more place to have that conversation, I feel like my early experience with all of this shit would have gone a lot differently.
Yeah.
I'm here to break stigma. I think that's a really big thing that is a problem with drug users and drug use in Adelaide, with youth in particular.
100%.
Obviously, for adults, it's a bit more relaxed for adults to kind of, do what they want because they're adults, and if they're throwing their life away and whatever, But as we know, we spoke about it a little bit in the last episode, there's a lot of stigma around being a drug user. And reaching out, looking for those resources, looking for places like this. You might not want to even look for something like this because of the stigma around you, like you think you're not entitled to that sort of thing. And yeah, I'm just here to raise some awareness, bring some education to the streets and the youth of Adelaide surrounding their drug use, where they're getting their drugs from, who they're getting their drugs from, what drugs they're taking, so people actually know what drugs do to them before they
How
go
to test them.
Yeah, exactly. Before they go taking let's just do, you hear the word pingers, do you know what makes a pinger? Do you know what goes into a cap? Do you know why you get high from weed? Do you know the effects it's actually having on your body, or are you just taking drugs? You know what I mean? I'm going to get a little bit personal today with everyone. I hope you guys feel comfortable enough to open up and maybe talk about your personal experiences with this a little bit. I'm going to run you through a bit of my shit, a bit of me, a bit of my story and what I've been through. Drugs have been around me forever, ever since I was a young kid. My mum and dad have both used harder drugs and the lower end of the spectrum. It's always been alcohol and tobacco and marijuana in my household, but at points there probably were harder drugs. And it's been, my parents have had their run. You know what I mean? I've been around it forever. Growing up in Woodville,
Shouts out to Woodville.
That's it, man. Woodville West represent. It was quite in my face, even in primary school, actually. I knew year 6 and 7s who were smoking cigarettes and like, I don't know, maybe if it was just one bottle of passion pop on the weekend, but it's still year 7s drinking alcohol. Do you know what I mean? It's still happening. Introduced very young. I first started smoking when I was about 10 years old. It was with a couple of mates at their house one time. I was completely peer pressured into the situation. I just wanted to be cool. You know what I mean? You don't want to be a party pooper. I was fucking scared. I was like, you know, when you see in the movies, like the big flashing lights and the things that aren't there, and, you know, you get this real, what's this really going to be like feeling to it. And anyway, it was a horrible situation. We had a lot of paranoia induced that night because we weren't allowed to smoke in the house that we were smoking in. So we were hiding in the lounge room, and one of my friends was like watching guard, talking to the adult at the house, like, you know, keeping him out the front of the house, and we're smoking in the lounge room. In the little bedroom, we're smoking out the back, just trying to keep away from everyone. Like, that was my first time smoking. I just went to my friend's house to go hang out, you know what I mean? They pull out a bit of weed, pull out a bong, and they're like, let's do it. And little 10-year-old me with my 13, 14-year-old friends, I didn't want to go, no, what's that? That's my mum told me not to take. You know what I mean? Like, that stuff, it's really hard to have that kind of conversation. I didn't try any sort of substances for a long time after that because my first experience wasn't the best. I didn't have a super great time. I don't really remember it now. I think being a recreational user, because I associate so much positivity with my side of my use now, because it is a very positive thing for me now, I think I've kind of pushed down a lot of those memories and suppressed them, don't want to think about them. I started becoming a recreational user in about year 8. With the alternative community, there's a lot of kids who feel the need to be different and break away from society. And I mean, look at me. Like, I mean, I'm not your run-of-the-mill grade A private school kid. Like, I've tried to be that kid, and it didn't work out for me very well. I'm a lot more comfortable in my own skin now. But being a part of the alternative community from such a young age, weed is a huge thing. Like, and cigarettes and weed are huge. Everyone's smoking durries at the high school grounds. Like, they even go to the Oval to smoke cigarettes. They're taking video, like on their Snapchat, you know, you see it everywhere. It's a really publicised, glorified thing. You know, so in year 8, I started using quite a bit. Just marijuana. Any other drug really scared me. The thought of doing any other drug was terrifying, but it was happening so much in front of me with my friends that it seemed really normal and a really easy thing to access, so I thought I'd give it a go. And I got really hooked on the party drugs, so uppers. And unfortunately, I couldn't tell you a lot of what I took back then because I was just a mindless child. I was just taking whatever was being given to me. So there's been a few horrible experiences where I've had friends really worried for my safety in the situation at the time, and I can't even remember it. Like, there's multiple situations where I have not been a good role model. I've not been a good friend. I had young friends with me at the time, and I'm encouraging this sort of behaviour. I was young myself, but I was older than a few of the people I was with most of the time, and got to a point where I wasn't going to school. My dad would give me and my brother $10 lunch money every day. We'd meet up at Arndale with the gang. We'd go get a packet of Super Kings, JPS Super Kings in the 20s, because that's what they cost back then. It was about $15 a packet back then. It was only like 5 years ago. But yeah, it cost our school lunch. You know, we weren't eating during the day because we'd rather have tobacco. Like, what kind of mindless bullshit is that? So we'd meet up at Arndale, we'd buy the tobacco, which would be mixed, someone would have the bud, and we'd go smoke weed for the whole day. And we'd go back at recess time, sign in, and then leave. So the school didn't know that we were missing from our classes. It got to one point where I just figured out that my dad's really shit with technology, and I blocked Woodville High School's phone number. So they couldn't actually contact my father and tell him that I wasn't going to school. And Dad thought, wow, Miriam's been to school for 3 weeks in a row. That's a bit suspicious. So he calls the school, and sure enough, I haven't been even going. I haven't even been signing in. And where was I? 2 streets away from my dad's house in my friends, smoking weed, not doing anything with my mind, nothing with my body, you know. And it got to a point, like I said, we were drinking a lot of vodka, a lot of goon, a lot of cheap alcohol in sketchy places. It gets worse and worse and worse. It started off with during the day at school, then at night in town, and then 4 o'clock in the morning in car parks, and it got to a really bad state. And I really fucked myself up. I ruined my life at a really young age. Unfortunately, I was fried. I was not able to concentrate. I wasn't able to have conversations that were meaningful with my friends or my family or anyone in my life. You guys would have hated me back then. Ty can vouch for me, unfortunately. I was a horrible person. My bedroom to this day, there is still parts of my room that I will not be able to repair from when I was in that psychosis, in that state, when I was lashing out and acting like that. And I was really lucky to just get grabbed onto by something good before I got too deep in the hole and before I got too involved in my own shit. But it took me to get to my lowest point in my life to get where I am today. And I've seen incredible people ruin themselves on drugs. Like, I'm talking fathers, football players, skateboarders, like people who could have been the voice for Adelaide, that I would have had them in on this podcast for this situation, you know what I mean? But their mental health and their physical state has just deteriorated so much. And I was heading down that path, and I'm still a user now. I won't deny that. I am a recreational marijuana smoker. I smoke all the time. Before events, before going out. It helps me eat, helps me sleep at night, helps me concentrate when I'm at school, just calm down a little bit, you know, obviously it doesn't help me concentrate. Like, you're very forgetful. It's hard to keep up with things, but it just keeps you at a level where you're able to
slows your thoughts down.
Yeah,
so you're
when
not racing at a
when
million
you
miles
have
per hour.
anxiety, you know, there's a million things per hour. So that, because it's a depressant and a downer, it numbs that out and makes you feel lower. Like, and
Calm.
it makes you feel tired and drowsy. That's how it is now. Because of my past drug habits and how bad I was with my appetite, with getting to bed, with educating myself, concentrating in school, because of that, now I have to rely on marijuana to get to sleep and to eat and to do those sorts of things, basic things that humans should be able to do, like eat a meat pie. I can't even finish a whole meal some days, but I am so hungry. Like, my metabolism, I will have permanent life damage from the things that I've done to myself. And I'm here to stop that from happening to other kids, because it's a big thing. You can smoke a little bit of weed at home, talk to your parents about it. There is no need to be what I was doing at my age. I was 10 years old, 11 years old. I'm 19 now. I'm very lucky I made it to 19. I'm very lucky to be sitting at this table and having this conversation with you guys. But a little bit about me. Just so you guys know that I'm not a phony. I'm not a fake. I'm not looking at you guys and going, oh, I want to help these drug addicts get better. I want to help myself get better. I want to help my friends get better, my peers at school, people that look up to me, people that I look up to. You know, I'm doing this for everyone, for anyone who could be listening, for anyone who can relate, for any adults that might hear this. Like, the teachers at my school listened to this podcast last week, and I had multiple teachers tell me they got teary-eyed over it because they've never heard this sort of things being spoken about amongst youth before, and having an opportunity to open up, and it's an emotional thing to hear. But that's why I'm here. I'm here because I'm like every single person listening. I'm like every single person at this table, and I think just getting into those personal details a bit, you can open up to me. I'm not ever going to judge you. I've been through really bad situations, and if I was worried about people judging me from my past, it would really hold me. I'd have no friends today. I wouldn't be looking to be a youth worker. I wouldn't be looking to be a chef. I wouldn't have those opportunities for me right now. So I think if you maybe want to open up a little bit, Ty, and talk some personal shit, just some, you know, just so we all know that we're here for the same thing. You know what I mean? We've all been through the same shit. So
Yeah, I mean, like, I grew up in the Woodville area, pretty close to Mansfield, and if you know anything about those two areas, it's a bit rough. So you kind of grow up in a rough environment. Well, I kind of grew up in a rough environment. And you grow up with dudes who think drugs and everything. It stopped becoming like something like, you know, growing up in the movie, like growing up watching movies, you kind of see the thing, oh, you do drugs to be cool. You do drugs to act cool. Growing up for me, you do drugs to be normal.
yeah,
Because that's what everyone's doing in your area. And you're kind of like a bit of a square, a bit of a killjoy if you're not doing that.
for sure. It's
Or
like
like-
playing a weekend sport.
Exactly that. Like, if you don't have like this common denominator, then you're not really worth being a part of the scene. And growing up, I grew up like with some pretty like rough brothers and a pretty rough mom. So you kind of really you're a product of your environment. So like you kind of grow up thinking, I'm gonna be just like these guys because they're hard, they're cool, and that's exactly what I want to be like. Unfortunately, that's exactly what you don't want to be like.
Exactly.
But that's where a lot of the drug use in my youth came from, because I wanted to be like all these older people above me. So I guess I'm here just to tell you, it ain't fucking cool to do drugs, and there's nothing normal about it, except for the fact that it is like it's a very normal thing
Why
now.
you're reaching out to do it.
Yeah, exactly. But like, you know, there are other things you can be doing, and it's only normal if you're doing it normally.
Yeah, thank you, man.
You know?
Healthily.
Exactly
Yeah.
is exactly as you said. There's nothing wrong with smoking a little bit of weed in your house. Have a discussion, talk to people about it.
That's it.
That should not be a daily practice.
No, sir.
That shouldn't be something you're doing because you're turning your mind into mush.
That's it.
And basically, I'm here to tell you to avoid that and to, you know, educate people on how to essentially get their shit together.
That's it, man.
Yeah.
Can you think of like a particular story that you're like amazed you got through?
Oh man, there's a few, but I think I might start by talking about some of my earliest experiences because, you know, the same as you, I was quite young when I was exposed to it. So I can think of a time. I'm maybe 5th or 6th grade. So I'm either 10 or 11 years old. It's a couple years after my parents split up. Mum's moved out. She's living with a lady that used to be the netball coach of my primary school at the time.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm staying at this lady's house that I barely know, and she has a son who at the time is 17 and I'm 10 years old.
Yeah.
This guy has no idea how old I am. And I'm just trying to act cool. I'm just trying to, like, you know, look cool in front of him and stuff. And then one day he sort of turns around and he's like, hey, man, you smoke weed? Me, not wanting to look like a fucking idiot. I say, yeah, man, of course I do. Every day.
Of course I do. Oh.
Yeah. Every day, which was an absolute lie.
Mm.
He's like, all right, cool. Come smoke bongs with me in the shed. So we go to the shed. No one's home at the time. It's just me and him. He steals this little socket wrench that goes on the top of his hose inside of his Gatorade bottle. And that's our little homemade buke.
Yeah.
So he packs his, sinks his, smokes it, blows it out like it's nothing. You can tell this man does it as a daily habit, you know? It's like second nature to him.
Yeah, for sure.
He kind of looks the same. I'm like, oh, nothing's happening to him. You know, I should be all right. But at the same time, I'm freaking out. And not like it's bad enough. Like I'm sitting there, I'm thinking, like, shit, man, I'm about to use drugs, man.
Yeah, for sure. Like,
I'm about to do exactly what my parents told me not to do.
That's
They're
it.
never gonna forgive me. I'm gonna be a junkie for the rest of my life.
that's it. Like I said to you, I was like, you see it in the movies.
Yeah.
Like, am I going to see elephants and shit, man?
That's
like,
right.
Yeah.
So I'm freaking out. And he's like, all right, your turn. I'm like, oh yeah, that's cool. Pack it for me. So he packs it for me, passes it over. He's
And
like,
you've told him that you smoke every day.
I've told him I
Keep in
smoke.
mind, so
I told him I smoke every day. And he's like, all right, sink this bug. I'm like, I don't even know what sinking means.
yeah, yeah.
At the
Like, what are
time.
these words?
Yeah. So
Yeah.
I'm like, yeah, of course, man. No stress. Like exactly what you did. He's like, exactly what I did. So I'm like, oh yeah, I only got to do that. And I'm still a bit nervous. I'm keeping my cool in front of him. Next thing I know, he's like, if you're not going to sink this bug, I'm going to beat the fuck out of you right here.
Oh my
And
God.
yeah, we have another friend of ours in the shed at the time.
Yeah.
He's like, me and this dude here, we're going to beat the shit out of you if you do not sink this.
And Tyler's like, what does that even mean?
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
What the fuck am I meant?
What situation
What the
am I in
fuck am I meant to
right
do?
now?
So I'm freaking out enough, and now I'm like, holy shit. Not only is he gonna know that I don't smoke weed every day, I'm gonna get beaten up for it.
Yeah.
I'm 10. I'm gonna get beaten up by a 17-year-old,
Yeah, man.
pretty much a
6 foot.
man.
Yeah, that's
Pretty much a
it.
man. I'm gonna
That's
get
it.
beaten up by this man because I lied about smoking bongs. It went from one little lie, trying to look cool, to being in a shed 2 minutes later.
A real life dangerous situation.
That's
Yeah.
right. And we grew up this is in an area where if you say you're gonna do something like that, you're gonna do it.
You got to pull through.
No, I mean
Yeah.
no, like these guys are saying they're gonna beat the shit out of me. I know it's gonna happen.
Yeah, that's it.
Luckily enough, I sink this bong. And I get through it. I'm choking, I'm coughing, and like next thing I know, I'm about to pass out.
Yeah.
Dehydrated, I'm sweating, my head's spinning because my first experience smoking weed, I sink it.
And you've got the pressure in your
I
head
got
that
this
you're gonna get beaten up.
That's
and-
right.
Yeah.
So it was a bit of calmness, and it's like a bit of blackness. I'm nearly passing out. Next thing I know, they're screaming, "Hide the shit!" So I'm still here with this bong in my head, trying to gather my thoughts.
Like, what's going on right now?
Yeah,
man?
what's going on? I got 100 thoughts going through my head at once, and my body's not moving. Because obviously, this is the first time I've ever been stoned in my life.
Yeah.
And bongs straight to your head.
Yeah, immediately.
Straight away.
Straight into your lungs. Straight, you're cutting off oxygen to your brain.
Exactly
so
that.
Straight away.
And I'm out of it. I'm 10. My body's not made to handle it like at this point. Like the fact that I'm not throwing up by this point is a miracle. So I'm just sort of sitting there after like coughing my guts up, coughing my ring out, He's like, you got to hide it. You got to hide it. You got to hide it. We managed to just hide it. 2 seconds after we get it under the table, this man who I'm with, his dad walks in. He's like, smells a bit funky in here. He's like, yeah, whatever, shut up. We're by the garden. You're just smelling the garden. Somehow that works.
Crazy.
I go back like after everyone's left, everyone's cleared out. I'm still out of my brain. Next day I tell my mum, I'm like, Mum, look, I just smoked weed like for the first time, like with the guy like we're living with pretty much. She's like, oh, that's cool, son. You want to try some more? And then I don't know what happened where I went from being so scared
Yeah.
to being like,
Once that fear
Yeah.
was gone, that initial
you know,
thing around it, yeah.
I went from being terrified to being, fuck yeah, mum, I do actually. Again, I'm 10 years old.
10, yeah.
What the
that's
fuck
it.
is my mum thinking at
Exactly.
this point, you know?
Exactly.
So yeah, here I am, yeah, smoking weed with my mum. Next thing I know, I'm smoking weed with my whole family, and it's daily practice. The only person who doesn't know about it's my dad.
Yeah, for years.
For
Yeah.
years,
Yeah.
until I'm like 14, he doesn't know about it.
Mm.
And I guess this leads into me pretty much saying like, people say weed's not a gateway drug. People say, you know, gateway is just like a mental thing. Fuck that. If I didn't smoke weed, I wouldn't have done anything else
100%.
ever. I went from being terrified to feeling like the coolest guy ever because I'm the only one in my age group who can sink a bomb.
Yeah, invincible, yeah.
That's right. I'm like, nothing can take me down.
You realized it was acceptable.
Yeah, that's right. Because I was just taught that. My mom, my role model in my life, is completely like,
Yeah.
that's
for sure.
absolutely fine.
For
You want
sure.
some more? Here's some for free. I didn't pay a cent for weed for years.
I actually remember before I even started smoking weed, around the whole being around drugs my whole life, my mom had me bagging up drugs to sell to her customers when I was 8 years old, from 8 to 10 years old. Like, clearly something a child should not be handling, should not be around, shouldn't know that you sell drugs. Like, how is that so open? How can that just be so free of a thing? But then it got to a point where I'd go to school and talk to my friends about this because there was no filter at my house. I just assumed it was kind of like that in the rest of the world. So I'm going to school and my friends grew up in very different areas with very different families. I didn't get driven to school. Like, I lived a very different life, like I mentioned before. And I'd talk about these things to my friends. And they'd look at me like, wait, your parents sell drugs? And I'm like, your parents don't sell drugs? Do you know what I mean? Like, two completely different worlds. So young too. So young, man.
No, exactly that. So so fast forward a couple months later, I'm still in 5th or 6th grade. And it's like, for some reason, me and my sister at the time, we're waking up at 6 in the morning because we know our money's going to be on the table by that time and we can go get our pack of cigarettes. We go to our local mall, we get our pack of Super Kings. Next thing you know, we're 5 smokes down because we're handing them out to everyone.
That's it.
And that's kind of like a thing that makes you feel like you're cool at the time too.
Definitely, yeah.
Being-
It's like gum.
Being 10 and
Like gum in primary school.
exactly that.
Walking up with a can of Monster and I was like, wow, you've got energy drink, man.
That's right. So
Yeah.
we're instead of us handing out a pack of gum, we're handing out packs of cigarettes to people. Next thing you know, we have a couple individuals walk up to us like, "Hey, come down to the abandoned warehouse and just come hang out for a bit." Next thing we know, we're all going down to this warehouse, and it's like 6:45 in the morning by this point. Like, we're both in primary school at
So
this
you're
point.
breaking and entering
Yeah,
private property
yeah.
at a ridiculous hour when you're meant to be at school and you're
No,
underage.
so school hasn't even started.
Right.
It's 6:45 in the morning by this point. And then, so pretty much, we break into this warehouse. It's the local Kilkenny warehouse,
Yeah.
which is quite infamous amongst, you know, your little rough nut community.
Around the area, yeah.
Heaps of spray painting, drugs, dealings, everything goes on in this warehouse that you probably don't want to be around, like, ever.
Especially as a young kid.
Here I am, 5th grade in this warehouse. So we're here, we're chilling. I have no idea what's happening at this point. I'm just kind of following my older sibling. We're just kind of like trying to fit in with like a new crowd
With the
that
crowd,
for
yeah.
once isn't the alternative crowd. We have 1 or 2 alternative kids with us, but it's not really the alt crowd. It's more like your Mansfield Park, like thug rats,
Yeah,
you know, your
yeah.
hoodlums
Yeah.
and shit. So we're chilling in this warehouse. Next thing I know, these guys are circling around each other. There's about 5 of us, and like I'm just trying to see what's up. In the middle, someone's got their Metro card, a $5 note rolled up, and a pill being crushed on this dirty ass fucking bench in a space where probably asbestos was invented.
Yeah.
You know, like it's
New
all
civilizations
in the area.
cultivating in there. Yeah.
You know, the amount of diseases that's on this table, people crushing up a pill on it, and everyone's just line after line after line of what we were made to believe was ecstasy at the time. So people are just racking lines, and I turn over to my sister. I'm like, I'm gonna fucking do that. I'm gonna be just like these kids, and I'm gonna do exactly that. So next thing I know, it went from my sister really advising me, don't do that, don't be an idiot, to me being like, yeah, I won't. Next thing I know, I'm rolling up my ticket, my bus ticket, which is what got us there to the warehouse.
Your trip home.
My
Probably.
trip home
Yeah.
as well.
Yeah.
I'm rolling up this bus ticket to snort my first line of an unknown substance on a table that is disease ridden.
Yeah. Yeah. Super unhygienic.
One or two lines. I don't feel anything. And luckily, I think it's because I had a bit of a cold that day. My nose is blocked. I don't feel anything. But just to be cool, I'm pretending to be
Yeah,
dizzy.
yeah,
I'm pretending to be like a bit faded. Next thing I know, there's another guy with us who was a part of the alternative crowd, and he's going hard at it. He's like 5 lines deep. Like he's taking more than most of the other people there because everyone else was 3 lines in, and they're like, no, thank you. Like that's it. Like we're buzzed. That's enough. And this guy, first time ever doing something like that, he's just going at it so hard, like it's like you're a primary school kid snorting sherbet.
Yeah. Yeah.
Treating it like it's some sort of candy.
Yeah, like it's a game. Like
Yeah,
it's literally
like
nothing.
it's nothing. Like he's never done it before, and I thought I was messed up just being like, oh yeah, maybe I'll give this a go. This guy's like, yeah, this is my lifestyle.
Yeah, this is what I'm living like now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's only maybe like 3 years older than me at the time. Next thing I know, he's really pinging, and this warehouse is like 7 stories high. Like it's a tall building with crane works in it because I think they used to manufacture steel for train lines back in the day before it was abandoned. So it's a high building, and you can climb up to some really high and sketchy spots, and like there's a danger of falling off no matter what height you're climbing to.
In what state you're in, yeah.
So there's 3 levels. There's one level which is about, I would say, like 10 feet high. Like it's pretty damn high. And then there's one that goes to 12, and then it's straight to 20. And this guy decides to go on the 10, which is the shortest one, but mind you, it's still high as shit. 10 times higher if you're off your face on drugs.
That's it.
Next thing I know, this guy's dancing around up there. We're all laughing. We turn away for 1 second, and you hear a smack on the ground. Smack and a crack, and everyone's worried. No one wants to look.
Yeah, no one wants to turn around and see the damage.
We're all on drugs, man. No one wants to deal with something like this bad. And we turn around, and this guy's on the ground, and he's not screaming like you expect people to be. He's groaning like the breath was just taken out of him. And somehow, because he's on drugs, he walks out of this warehouse after falling from a height like that, straight onto his back, gets up, walks out the warehouse to where the old basketball court was. That's not there anymore, but there was a basketball court just outside of this warehouse. Sit down there, and we rest him on our chair. He's in his high school uniform. I'm in my primary school uniform.
Oh my God, and you've got a potentially...
And I got a potentially near dead, at the time, friend, you know, on the bench, who's risking his life. So this guy's just sitting on the bench, and we're all freaking out. We're like, oh, surely if we give him 10 minutes, he'll be able to stand up and we'll just leave. Like, it's just the drugs.
Yeah.
We're just like, he's overreacting. It's just the drugs. Next thing I know, an explosion goes off from this warehouse. So the other guys who we were with, instead of helping us move this guy out of the warehouse, they're in there blowing up deodorant cans.
Oh my God. Like causing more fucking
more
danger,
damage.
more chaos, more ruckus.
5 minutes later, police are there. Fire engines are there. This dude's off his head, like messed up off his head. And we just got to get him out of there. We don't know what to do. So we drag this guy to the train station, which luckily is literally like a 50-meter walk from where we are at the time. So we drag him on our shoulders. We can see the train coming. So we got to race this train with this dead weight. It's okay carrying your mate, but when your mate is dead weight,
on drugs.
drugs, not willing to move, and he's trying to fight you as you're trying to drag him onto the train, and also now he's yelling because this man's in pain, you know? This man fell from a great distance. So we start dragging him to the train station, get him on the train. None of us have a ticket. Luckily, there's no security on the train at the time. And we just kind of had to ditch him at the next at the next train stop. Like, there's nothing we can do.
Yeah.
I think we called someone and we're like, hey, you got to get this guy. You got to take him to the hospital. You got to sort it out. Like, what are we going to do? I'm 10 years old.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
I'm freaking out. What am I going to do?
It's
like,
not
with
thinking
this
about
guy.
your own safety.
So
what
after
you're gonna
all this
end up in.
experience happened, everyone's pinging off their heads. I'm feeling fine. I'm feeling fine.
Yeah.
Like, because obviously it just didn't affect me. Obviously I didn't do it properly, whatever. My mate of mine nearly dies. I still make it to school on time this day.
Wow. Like a normal day.
And I just had to shake it off like, yeah.
Mhm. And that's what I mean about the whole two different worlds thing. Like, you just lived that whole life this
Yeah.
morning. You get to school and you got to act like nothing happened.
Yeah.
Like, how do you talk about that thing with primary school kids?
Exactly.
Literal kids. Like,
Mention that kind of thing to your teacher and they send you to a bloody counsellor or call the cops on
well,
you.
yeah, your
Yeah.
family would, like,
Right.
CPS would probably get
Yeah.
involved. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah. And pretty much, yeah, if I wasn't smoking weed or trying to hang out with a crowd that I shouldn't have been hanging around, I would never have done that.
Yeah, 100%.
So that's just kind of like my thing of like, weed is a gateway drug, especially if you're young and you don't know what you're
Yeah.
doing.
You have evidence for yourself
When-
that
when
weed
you're
is a
like-
gateway.
Yeah, when
Yeah.
you're easily influenced by people, which you are when you're young.
Yeah.
You adapt to whatever's around you and you want to
100%.
be exactly what you see.
100% a product of your environment.
Exactly that.
Yeah, definitely.
Not a fun fact, but a little fact after that man broke his back. He shattered his lower vertebrae and he was in hospital for ages.
Broken heel, shattered pelvis. He was actually in a really bad condition.
Yeah,
for
and
months.
I still feel bad. We had to ditch him at the next
Yeah,
train station.
yeah.
Like, what else are we gonna
He was
do?
literally broken. Like this
Yeah.
kid was messed up. Yeah.
Yeah, so yeah, it's
Mm.
just like, and that never would have happened if this kid,
Without the weed in the first place.
if this kid wasn't smoking weed beforehand and had a better group of friends and had better peers to tell him, look,
Like,
man, this
who
isn't what
didn't-
you want to do.
How did he even get up there? Who didn't stop him from getting
Yeah,
up there?
right.
Like, you're taking drugs and letting your drug fucked friends wander and
Yeah.
do things like, and obviously because you're kids, you're not thinking about these sorts of things, but it's just more proof in the pudding. What are you doing?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
His
Yeah.
body could have felt an extra 45 degrees, hit his head, done.
Yeah, gone. And then you have a dead body to deal with, like
Yeah.
a dead friend, a dead human being over a bunch of kids trying to take drugs and have fun. Like, could you imagine that? Like, telling his family,
Yeah.
like his sister, his mum, your mum.
Yeah.
That
So
whole
yeah,
situation.
that those two stories are pretty much just to sum up how easily, this isn't a matter of a couple months. I went from being scared shitless to having my first bong to being like, fuck yeah, I'm gonna,
Full-time
Yeah.
recreational user.
then to being like,
Yeah.
fuck yeah, I'm gonna rack lines in a warehouse and
Yeah.
watch my mate nearly kill himself
That's it. Ridiculous. Overnight.
overnight.
Just, yeah.
And I reckon if I just had a better group of, like, even I shouldn't be doing it at that age anyway, but if I had a better group of friends who said, yeah, one bong every week is cool.
Yeah, yeah.
know,
Not
do it
every day,
safely.
Let's do this every day. All
Yeah,
day.
exactly that. If I just had a better set of people around me, someone to educate me and tell me, like, look, man, shit can escalate very
Yeah.
fast, that situation would never have happened.
No, that's
Who was
it,
the
man.
eldest person there? Like
How old?
In the warehouse situation,
Mm.
we had someone in year 11, who was just about to finish year 11.
So what?
Yeah, from-
17, 18.
Yeah,
Yeah.
which
Yeah.
is rough, 'cause especially this student was from Nazareth High School. That's like
Right, right.
that's a private school where like you're expected the
There's
kids
a
to be
reputation there.
yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
So yeah, it was just it was real shocking, and like that's one of the type of schools you look at and you're like, this is like a school that you want to look up to. Like obviously, like to get into a private school, there's always that thing of like it's got to be a good school,
Yeah.
good kids go
Yeah,
there.
that's it.
Next thing I know, they're giving 10-year-olds me ecstasy to
Yeah,
rack off of a
illicit
dirty
fucking
bench.
drugs. Yeah, man.
Very
Don't care.
heavily used in those private schools, actually.
Yeah.
Because I guess the money's there as
Yeah.
well.
Unfortunately, a lot of harder drugs are
And
being
yeah,
taken
a
in
lot of those
situations.
kids, even when they're not in bad situations at home, I guess they're getting into it heavily just because it's there.
So accessible, yeah,
Yeah.
especially in the area that we're in particular.
It's not educated enough, so they're just
Exactly.
taking it like, oh yeah, this is
Exactly.
fun.
There should be a
Like, cool.
stigma
Yeah.
around that sort of thing. When I talk about breaking stigma, not it's okay to rack lines, like stigma is in you can't even tell your parents you're smoking weed because they think that's the equivalent of
You're gonna
snorting
ruin your
lines and
life.
being out, putting yourself in that situation. But
Yeah.
thanks for sharing that
No,
with
that's
us,
cool,
man.
yeah.
Like, no, deep shit to talk about, you know, like it's crazy.
Probably my
crazy.
two first
Biggest,
experiences, the two first memories I
definitely,
have when it comes to drug use, and they happen to be the most hectic, you know.
Taylor, do you want to, have you got anything you could add? Like,
a few things. I mean, I've been recreationally using weed since I was about 13, smoking cigarettes for about the same amount of time, and it was all influenced by an older friend, but I grew up around it as well. My dad always smoked weed. Cigarettes whenever they were more, you know, social, when family friends were around, and my mum occasionally smoked, but, and alcohol. But I didn't even know and understand what illicit drugs were per se until after I had experienced like my parents using it. Even when they were on it, I didn't understand quite what it was and why it was affecting.
So normal in your household.
And it wasn't spoken about. It was kind of just never spoken about, and it was like, don't touch this kind of thing, it's not good for you until at least you're older.
This is for adults. This is what adults do. Don't question the adults.
And it was just kind of like, oh, that's just an adult thing to do. That's normal. And it's like, alcohol was a very big thing because my dad heavily drank, so I saw the severe effects of that, and I didn't drink. I first drank when I was 13, 14, so I was in my teen years, but it was still really young. Still and I remember our parents didn't know. I remember getting absolutely shit-faced on Goon one night, and we were all at my dad's. There was 3 of us, and I was pretty much passing out. I couldn't function, and they're trying to get me to go back to my friend's house around the corner, and her mum's bloody come to pick us up, and I'm getting screamed at. Like, it wasn't a good situation because my dad always had weed in their house. This friend of mine, she got a hold of it, and one night we just
of your dad's weed. Your friend got some of your dad's weed.
Yeah, because my dad and her mum were kind of seeing each other. So they were around the house a lot, and I guess they were just kind of one of those kids. She got a hold of it, and we tried it one night. It didn't really do much for me, but every time she had it, I'd kind of have some as well. But honestly, I've cut out a lot of those experiences, like first experiences, I'd say. But once I started, I didn't stop, and I got onto smoking cigarettes, and really, it's all just been influential around from friends and stuff. But seeing it growing up as well, and it was kind of normalized, it was like, oh, well, I'm going to try this at some point. It can't be that bad. Like, I see my parents doing it all the time. I see family friends doing it. Like, thankfully, I wasn't exposed to too many heavy drugs, but they were around. And, once I was a bit older, about 15, I had some friends. She'd helped someone out, and they gave her a large amount of MDMA, and we all just got off our heads for about 2 weeks straight. Neither of my parents knew, and I just stayed at her house for 2 weeks, and we just continuously took it. That'd probably be one of the heaviest uses that I've ever done. Experience. And like very rarely touch it now, but if I wasn't able to get myself detached from that situation, it could have stemmed into something so much worse.
Yeah, definitely.
But I've been really, I can say I've probably been lucky with what I've been exposed to, but it's the idea of talking about it to adults or parents, and the thought that they're just going to shame you because you're going to ruin your life on this kind of thing, or it's just going to put you down a bad path, like just all the stigma around it, I guess, that you're going to be shamed for it. And because there are people in your family that had bad experiences from it, you're just going to get compared to those experiences. and it can just get blown out of proportion, I guess. Really, I personally think it's just about the people that you surround yourself with. But again, it's the fact that youth aren't educated enough on how to use these drugs and what's in them and how to access equipment to like test kids to actually know if you're doing something safely
For
or
sure.
not.
What's even going
And
into your body?
Yeah, and being able to tell your parents without them being like, oh, well, you're not allowed to go out now, or I don't want you hanging out with these people anymore,
that's it.
and you have to cut yourself off completely from your friend group,
Yeah.
or you're shamed by your family. So yeah, really, it all just comes into educational purposes, I guess.
No, definitely.
But yeah, personal experiences, very little, I guess. I'm just a very heavy marijuana user, and
Cool.
like you said before, it has completely changed the way that my body works. Sleeping, eating, thinking,
metabolism, my body weight, all of it.
it has affected so many different things,
and it will forever.
and forever
for the rest of your life.
And just realizing that you need to help yourself with it, and having the acceptance there, I guess, to know, okay, I need help, I need to do something about this. Awesome. That can be one of the hardest things ever, I guess, but it's having the support there.
Yeah, definitely. So. Thanks for that. I appreciate that. Now, really quickly, before I start wrapping up, I'm going to have some resources I'm going to list really quickly because I think that they're super useful and about what me and Taylor were just talking about then. Just before I get into that, Bella, is there anything quickly you'd want to share?
I've had a very different life experience to everyone else. I didn't grow up around drugs at all. So I guess it's kind of like I knew about drugs, kind of. Wasn't a thing in primary school or anything. No one did drugs. It was...
Yeah, I never saw it in primary school either. It was mentioned and spoken about.
Yeah, they'd bring it up, but no one did anything. But it was when I got into high school that sort of stuff started to come into play. And I think generally wanting to fit into high school and stuff, being more open to that stuff.
Yeah, being a part of the crowd.
Yeah.
That's it.
And then, that's really much.
Yeah, just got into it like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thanks for that. I really appreciate you guys just sharing a little bit, just breaking down what this is, what we're here for. I've got a few resources that I'm going to bring up because I think that they're amazing. I've done a lot of personal research lately. I've actually looked at these sites myself. I haven't just Googled drug safety information. And I'm not just handing you bullshit that I haven't written and I feel is appropriate myself. So around information about what's in drugs, what drugs do to you, what drugs are meant to look like things, how big they should be, how much is safe, what you should be taking for your body weight, if you should eat first, if you'll be able to eat, the side effects that it has on you, whether it causes nausea and drowsiness, whether it's an upper, whether it's a downer. A really good site for that is it's adf.org.au. I'll have all the links written at the end of this. We'll have it up in the little corner. Our awesome little editor will do that. We'll have that in there.
Also be in the description of our YouTube channel.
That's it. So yeah, that's adf.org.au. That's the Alcohol and Drug Foundation. And on that website, they have everything from caffeine to alcohol to methamphetamines. They have literally anything. And if you're looking for information on amounts, what it should look like, things like that sort of access. That's a really good website for drug safety. A few different places to access drug purity tests because those are really, really, really important. If you're going to a music festival, if you have a birthday party planned and you know you're going to be taking drugs, you're going to know before the night, okay? There is no excuse to not get a drug test. They're cheap, they're easy to access. Shipping might take about a week, but if you can plan your friend's 21st 3 weeks in ahead, you can plan a fucking drug purity test 3 weeks in ahead. That's as simple as that. There's a few different websites. One of them is Blow Me First. They're a really good website that I found just today on the way into school, actually. They have drug purity test, saliva test for your alcohol, so you know if you can drive, you know what I mean, that sort of stuff. They have urine tests and stuff, drug purity tests, all that sorts of stuff. And
I think that kind of stuff should be accessible in supermarkets.
definitely. And in Adelaide in particular, sometimes it's easy to go online. Like, they have discreet shipping. You don't have to worry about your parents going, what the fuck have you got a drug purity test for? It's
That's a very
discreet
good point,
shipping.
yeah.
It won't have your name on it. They're made to be accessed like that. If you're looking for a walk-in thing, Off Your Tree and High Herbs, Happy High Herbs, everyone knows those shops. Every weed smoker in Adelaide, every drug user in Adelaide knows those shops. They have them in the shelves. They're $5 a thing. You scrape off a little bit of your whatever, pop it in there, and the colours will tell you what's in it. That can save your life. Literally 2 minutes and $10 can save your goddamn life. It is absolutely worth it. Get out there, get your drugs tested, know where you're getting your drugs from, and know what situation you're going to be getting yourself into. Pretty well.
Don't take drugs from random people, ever.
Good advice. Good advice. Stranger danger, you know?
How the fuck do we wrap this up? Yeah,
That was awesome, man. It was awesome. Thanks for being here today, guys. Really appreciate it.
Surely we have a roll of bloopers right now.
Here? Right here?
Right this second.
Right now.
I found it on Facebook, Red with 2Ds, Red Cook.
Red Cook.
Luckily, it gets edited.
Exactly. Once you get into it, you'll be fine.
Jesus.
Puff and Pop!